Grandmother's vehicle got shut up. Her family cycle of violence always ends up in a familiar place.
Marshals, Season 2, Episode 2. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that you never even considered they could be the one destroying everything behind your back? Because that is exactly the nightmare Casey is about to face. After everything that happened in the Season 1 finale, the attacks, the betrayal, and the shocking truth about Tom, it looks like Marshals Season 2 Episode 1 is about to begin with absolute chaos. But what if exposing Tom is only the beginning? What if the real danger isn't what Tom has already done, but what he's planning to do next? And while Casey struggles to accept that one of the people he trusted most may have been manipulating him all along, Belle and Calvin are fighting for their lives after the brutal attack that left their fate hanging in the balance. The question is no longer whether Tom is dangerous. The question is how far he's willing to go before someone finally stops him. And honestly, after everything we've seen so far, I think the answer is terrifying. So let's talk about why Tom's betrayal could change everything, why Casey's world is about to be turned upside down, and why Season 2 might begin with the most explosive episode the series has ever delivered. The first thing I need to talk about is that final revelation from the Season 1 finale, because I honestly don't think Casey fully understands what he's up against yet. Throughout the entire first season, Tom positioned himself as someone Casey could rely on. Every conversation, every business proposal, and every piece of advice seemed designed to make Casey believe he had found an ally. But now that the truth is finally starting to come out, everything looks completely different. Suddenly, those friendly conversations don't seem so friendly anymore. Those helpful suggestions begin to feel calculated. And every step Tom took toward gaining Casey's trust now looks like part of a much larger plan. What makes this situation so dangerous is that Tom wasn't acting like a typical villain. Most enemies make mistakes because they let their emotions control them. Tom is different. He's patient, he's strategic, and most importantly, he's willing to wait for the perfect moment before making his move. That's exactly why I think Season 2 will begin with Casey slowly putting together pieces of a puzzle that he never even realized existed. The attacks against Thomas, the pressure surrounding East Camp, the growing public hostility, none of it feels random anymore. Instead, it feels like part of a carefully organized campaign designed to push Casey into making decisions that benefited Tom. And honestly, if Casey reaches that conclusion, I don't think he'll be able to forgive himself. After all, Tom didn't just betray him. He manipulated him during one of the most difficult periods of his life. Casey was already carrying the weight of enormous personal loss. He was trying to figure out how to move forward while dealing with grief, responsibility, and uncertainty. That vulnerability may have been exactly what Tom was counting on. At the same time, I think the trailer will show us that Casey isn't the only person beginning to connect the dots. Tate may end up playing a much bigger role than many people expect. Throughout the first season, we watched Tate mature in ways that were both impressive and heartbreaking. Time after time, he found himself pulled into dangerous situations that forced him to grow up far too quickly. And now, after witnessing everything that happened around East Camp, I think Tate may start asking questions that nobody wants to answer. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Tate becomes one of the first people to openly challenge Tom. Sometimes younger characters notice things that everyone else overlooks. They aren't distracted by politics, business deals, or personal agendas. They simply look at what happened and ask whether it makes sense. That's why I think Tate's observations could become extremely important moving forward. And if Tom realizes that Tate is becoming a threat to his plans, that could create an entirely new level of danger. Meanwhile, the fallout from the attacks is only getting worse. The biggest question fans have been asking since the finale is whether Belle and Calvin survived. The good news is that all signs seem to point toward them making it through the attack. But surviving and escaping unharmed are two very different things. Honestly, I think Episode 1 will show us just how devastating the consequences of that attack really were. Calvin was already facing enormous challenges before any bullets started flying. His health struggles have continued to hang over him, And now he's dealing with an enemy who clearly isn't afraid to eliminate anyone standing in the way of his goals. That's why I believe Calvin's story in season 2 could become even more emotional than before. Every decision he makes may carry greater weight because he knows time isn't guaranteed. And when someone understands that every day matters, they often become willing to take risks they never would have considered otherwise. Belle, on the other hand, may emerge from the attack with an entirely different perspective. She has spent so much time trying to uncover the truth that now she finally has a clear target. The problem is that exposing Tom won't be easy. People like Tom don't build powerful positions without creating protection for themselves. He likely has allies, connections, and backup plans that nobody knows about yet. And that's exactly why I think episode 1 will end with a shocking realization. Even though Tom's betrayal has finally been exposed, bringing him down may be far more difficult than anyone expected. Now, if Tom's betrayal is truly about to be exposed, then the biggest question becomes how Casey is going to react when he finally learns the full truth. And honestly, I don't think this is going to be a simple situation where Casey discovers a piece of evidence and immediately turns against Tom. If anything, I think the exact opposite will happen. Tom has spent far too much time building trust to be brought down that easily. That's why I have a feeling episode 1 will focus heavily on Casey struggling to accept what is right in front of him. After all, nobody wants to believe that someone they trusted was secretly manipulating them. The human mind naturally searches for other explanations. It looks for reasons to doubt the evidence, and I think Casey may go through that exact process. Even if Belle and Calvin start presenting information that points toward Tom, Casey might initially refuse to believe it. Not because he's naive, but because accepting the truth would force him to rethink everything that has happened over the past year. Every conversation, every decision, every moment when Tom appeared to be helping him. Suddenly all of it would take on a completely different meaning. What makes this even more complicated is the fact that Tom is probably already preparing for this exact scenario. One thing we've learned about him is that he never seems caught off guard. Every move appears calculated. Every decision seems designed to protect him from future consequences. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if episode 1 reveals that Tom has already created a backup plan in case his involvement starts becoming public. In fact, I think there's a strong chance he may try to shift all the blame onto someone else. Maybe one of his employees, maybe one of his business partners, or maybe someone we've barely paid attention to until now. The important thing is that Tom understands how powerful perception can be. He knows that if he can create enough confusion, people will start questioning the evidence instead of focusing on him. And honestly, that's what makes him such a dangerous opponent. He's not just fighting with money or influence. He's fighting with information. He's controlling what people see, what they believe, and what they choose to ignore. At the same time, I think we're going to see growing tension between Casey and the people closest to him. The reason is simple. Once questions about Tom start spreading, everyone will have a different opinion about what should happen next. Some people will want immediate action. Others will want more proof. And that disagreement could create serious problems inside Casey's own circle. The last thing they need right now is division, especially when they're facing an enemy who benefits every time they waste energy arguing with each other. That's why I think one of the most emotional moments in episode 1 could involve Casey realizing that his hesitation is putting everyone at risk. Sometimes leaders have to make difficult decisions before they have all the answers. And if Casey waits too long to act, Tom may gain enough time to launch another attack. Speaking of attacks, I have a feeling the danger surrounding East Camp is far from over. In fact, I think episode 1 will make it clear that the violence we saw in the finale was only the beginning. Tom has invested too much time and effort into his plans to simply walk away now. If anything, exposing him may make him even more dangerous. People who feel cornered often become desperate, and desperate people make unpredictable choices. That's why I wouldn't be surprised if Tom starts taking bigger risks than ever before. Maybe he'll pressure local officials. Maybe he'll use his connections to manipulate public opinion even further. Or maybe he'll decide that eliminating certain threats is the only way to protect himself. Whatever path he chooses, I think one thing is becoming increasingly clear. The conflict between Casey and Tom is no longer a business dispute.